Oh, good afternoon or evening, everyone. I see some of you
Hello.
still connecting. Hi.
Hi,
Um, there's still a
Brina.
few more people to come in, so I'm gonna waffle for a little while and just do some introductions while we wait for the rest of the crew to roll up. Um, Bear with me. I'm looking over here. I've got another screen on so I can see what's going on with the chat and stuff. So bear with. Um, I'm going to ask everyone to be on mute unless you're speaking, just in case of background noise and bits and pieces. But right now it's fine. There's not that many of us, so it shouldn't be a problem. Um, I can't actually see who's there because I've hidden my own video. It makes me more
We have
comfortable.
Lisa, Emma. Hello, hello. Sam, good to see you. Other Lisa, Dale, Thomas, and we have Michaela and Maddie just connecting.
Oh wow, Michaela and Maddie are at the same place. Yeah, okay.
No, they're not. Oh, okay.
Oh, they are. They're together this evening.
My phone wasn't working, so Maddie's quickly logged on her side. So I don't know if you can hear me.
Yeah,
we can hear
you. Thank you, Kayla.
So I'm just going to log out of my phone. So I'll be in a second.
No
Okay.
problem.
We have Devella and Aaliyah. Hello.
So I'm going to just
I
quickly.
have to stay on my phone.
You're on your phone, Em?
Yeah, because I have to work. It's 2 p.m. here.
Oh,
So
of course.
Skip to work for an hour.
Yeah, Emma's in Canada, so obviously the time difference, she's eating into her working day. So I really appreciate you being here. Thank you.
I'm
Brina,
excited for it. I'm going to
can
mute
you
myself
email
now.
me the link to my work email if I text it to you, because I'm still doing some of my study, so I can run
If
it at the
you've
same
got
time.
Damien's number, if you want to do it by WhatsApp, he'll WhatsApp you the link.
Yeah, hold on.
No, I've got the link on WhatsApp. I need it on my laptop.
Okay, so if you then WhatsApp Damien your
Yeah, send
work
me your-
email, because obviously
Yeah.
I'm not connected to all of that stuff right now because I'm presenting.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Give me a minute.
Thank you. So the slide that's up right now is just a little brief welcome and a little introduction of what we're going to quickly try and go through in this quite a short time frame for such a big subject today. So being a youth worker, teacher, I'm going to have to go through some ground rules, brief introductions for those of you who don't already know us, or even if you do, a little look at the objectives and my purpose for doing the event this evening. Then I've got a whole load of questions and some things that we can sort of comment and feedback together about what we saw in the show, what things were relevant particularly to us, hopefully some insight that we can share amongst us and our experiences. A little bit of a talk about the mental health stats, how that links to our social media usage. Then I've got an exercise around how we can just move away from how much internet we use and using social media. Then an introduction about our next event, and I've got some links for mental health support services, primarily in the UK, but if anybody wants more global support networks, I can find those for you and send them through as well. And there's some contact details at the end. So that's kind of a rundown of what we're going to be looking at today. How much longer do we want to hold off? It's like 5 past almost.
Okay, we've got Jason and Brian coming in now.
Yeah, so I'm just going to go ahead and people can join as they see fit, as they are ready. I'm just going to run through the intros and bits, and then people can come off mute and give their feedback and get involved with the chat. So can I have the next slide, please? So me and my ground rules, I like boundaries, for those of you who know me well enough. So first of all, I want to let you know we're recording the event. It's not about us recording you, it's about recording me, and you've been able to use this content for future work and training. So I would like this space to be a really respectful space. I expect nothing less of all of you. So it's important to listen and to protect everyone's confidentiality. I'd like you all to be aware of what you share, but also for everyone to be aware that when people are sharing and trusting you, that you wouldn't take that information anywhere outside of this conversation. Time management is another one which I often fail at. But if we can try and keep our engagement concise, that will allow us the time for everyone to have some input or whatever level of input they're comfortable with. Was there another one, Damien? I feel like there was something else that should have been mentioned in the ground rules.
I think that was it. The other thing was about being on mute when you're
Okay, which we already did that. So yeah, remain on mute unless you're speaking, just in case of background noise. But you don't just put your hand up or anything like that. If you want to speak, just take yourself off mute. So the welcome, can go to the next slide, please, Han. Introductions. Do you want to go first, Damien? Because I'll waffle.
Yeah. So I'm Sabrina's partner, for those who don't know me. I say I'm sort of mild-mannered accountant by day and superhero by any other time, and technical support for tonight. So I'll be putting a few things in the chat box. So make sure you engage with that as well.
Okay, so I'm Sabrina. I'm hosting the event. I'm the owner of Rose Development. My background is education, as I've already stated. I have been working with youth offending and young people in education and cognitive behaviour stuff since the late 90s. And I feel like this show and the conversation that it brought up is really, really important and quite timely. So obviously I'm a mum as well. If any of you know, my daughter Leah is actually one of the participants. Thank you very much for attending, babes. And how we manage our social media. So for me, I wanted to quickly say, we have a lot of positives with regards to social media in our experience. When Leah got ill, we were trapped in hospital for a month. It was our only way of really communicating with our family and friends and finding that support and letting people know what was going on. So, you know, the intensive care unit that Aaliyah was in the basement. There was no signal. So if it wasn't for the fact that we had Wi-Fi and social media, we would have been really isolated for that entire period. So we're not here to like bash social media and say it's terrible, everyone should get off Facebook and never join social media ever again. That's not the purpose of this conversation. It's really about finding the balance, as with all things in life. So that's really kind of, I want to just put that out there. There are some positives to social media. I do not think, you know, it's all evil. I think, as with anything, it's a tool and it's about how we interact with it. So that's kind of the intro's done. Can we move to the next slide, please? So I've got some objectives, just 5, which is quite good for me. Usually I'd have more. So the first one is about improving our understanding of social media impact, which I hope most of you would have gained from watching the show. If you didn't watch it, feel free to go and watch it after the fact. There's other programs as well on Netflix and on other platforms that talk about similar subjects. I just found this one was quite profound because the people who wrote a lot of the algorithms that we use every day were talking about the negative of it, which to me is quite moving. 2, about reflecting on our personal usage, and that's media, like social media, as well as just the technology. There's a lot of research about screen time and stuff like that, which you can look up. Or if you're interested, let me know and I can send you some links. Then about considering the links between how much time we're online and our mental well-being, which, as somebody who's a mental health practitioner, I find that's something that is very, very important. When we see how people's mental health has been impacted by being isolated with COVID and you know, using social media and how the algorithms and that can affect how you use it. So our experience of mental health and social media together has been really interesting over the last few months. Also about sharing, for me, to share some safe control measures for all of you. So I have some resources and some information which may be of benefit to you. And then to provide details of mental health support services, because even if you personally feel like you're managing your mental health really well and your social media usage, you may come across people who need that extra support. So I'm going to provide you with some support services that are, you know, for the UK primarily, but if you need external other countries, we can help you find that as well. Also, I'm a mental health first aider, so if anyone needs to break out, feel free to break out. You can, you know, come away and talk to us again about it later. If it brings up anything for you, feel free to contact us. Yeah, there's no judgment here, so whatever makes you comfortable. If that's what you need to do, we'll support you. Next slide, please. So we're kind of straight into it from there, and I've got slides with each got 3 questions on. I'm going to ask you the 3 questions, and then anyone who wants to delve in, feel free to drop your comments. I know I've had individual conversations with a few of you, and you have quite important and worthy views. So please don't feel that you can't come in and share the things that we've already discussed, because obviously I've heard them, but not everybody else in the group has. So what did you learn from watching the show, for those of you who have watched it? Did it change how you consider positive mental health? And what was the most impactful aspect of what you saw? Damien's gonna... Anybody in the comments? Or because if you don't want to talk, actually, you don't have to.
I'll comment.
Thank you, Lisa.
Okay, what did I learn? I looked at it from from 2 different aspects. So one from being a practitioner who works with young people, and particularly in this time, the young people I work with are very vulnerable and they are really suffering with their mental health. So I looked at it from that perspective, but that's my normal everyday work perspective. But I also looked at it from a workplace perspective, because when we say social media, instantly people think about Instagram and they think about Facebook and they think about TikTok and those kind of things, but we don't think about the impact of email. Mm-hmm. And even from my own experiences of being a manager and having to manage various different elements, like I managed 2 different services at one point, and I was getting 70 to 100 emails a day. And that was really stressful, and I felt like I couldn't go on holiday, and that if I went on holiday, because there was nobody looking after that part of the service, I would come back to like thousands of emails, and it's
social dilemma. It's a discussion.
It was just massive. And then I tried to look at it from that perspective, and I feel that organisations, workplaces, whatever you want to call them, I don't think they really realise the impact of email on their staff and the ways of working. And I feel even more so now in the wake of COVID, that people are working from home, they can't escape from work, and they're getting more and more emails because people might try to call and they can't get through, so they just cram up people's inboxes with email. And I think there's a lot of work that can be done and should be done maybe with people from organisations and workplace sort of stress of emails.
Yeah, I don't disagree at all. I mean, we have had a conversation recently actually with somebody who doesn't ever switch off their work email and has the notifications on their personal phone. Wow. And had a conversation about how unhealthy that is, because you never actually stop working in those sort of circumstances. So I think you're absolutely right. I think the thing about email is actually mentioned in the show.
It is.
And yeah, I think it's an easy one to overlook because it's not social media in the way that we consider social media.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're absolutely right.
We have to unmute ourselves though. Already done.
Do you want me to comment on the other bits of the...
That's up to you. Anyone who's not currently speaking, would you put your Zoom on mute for me, please?
I would. The only thing I would add to that is, because I work within the union in my workplace, this is something that I'm going to bring up, because when I worked in a previous role, I had a really great manager who realised that people were just sending emails for email's sake and it was stressing people out. So he sort of put a quash on sending emails. It's like, only send it if you really need to, or if you really need to get some important points across, you've got to send a document. And I feel like I could do a lot more with the support of the union to make organisations and workplaces realise just how detrimental emails can be to your mental health.
Yeah, and I think having some control measures in, like when you switch off and that's the end of your working day, regardless of what's going on. I think it's hard when you've worked in an environment like you and I have, where you're safeguarding lead. and you know that you can't really turn your phone off because something might happen and you need to be on call in case of a safeguard. So I think there's a lot of that, but people do it actually just in their regular day job where there isn't any life or death scenarios likely to happen, but they still feel the obligation. So yeah, I agree with you. There's quite a lot of work left to be done. Just in workplaces across the board. I don't think it matters whether you're public sector, working in private. I think it's also something that even people who are self-employed like myself could really benefit from avoiding.
One thing I would say, Brie, speaking as someone who my contract actually says that I work from home, and even before that, because of the type of work I do, a lot of the time I get emails, phone calls outside of work. Not so much with my current employer, but previous employers, you get a situation where because there's a certain amount of flexibility with working hours, it's almost like an assumption of, oh, well, you know, you don't always do a solid 8 hours every single day. So for me to send you an email on a Friday afternoon at 4:30 and expect you to do 4 hours worth of work, maybe even more, before Monday morning isn't unacceptable. Whereas in reality, it is, because when do you turn off?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's having that downtime that makes all the difference to how our mental well-being, how we balance that and how we manage it. So has anybody else got anything particular you want to bring to this? Sorry, I couldn't see who that was.
I didn't want to interrupt you halfway through a sentence. So I didn't.
Oh no, go ahead, interrupt away, babe.
One thing that I may have noticed in the social dilemma is, although it was a little bit of a shock, it also wasn't a shock because it's so relatable, and because it's in all aspects of life, and I'm not just talking about social media, like you said, emails and texts. I feel like there's no middle ground. It's you're all in or you're nothing. And I feel like that sometimes you can find yourself all in, and then it becomes so overwhelming that you have no choice but to be completely nothing. But because of that, you actually purposely isolate yourself, even to just text messages and emails. And then when you find yourself going all in again, you find yourself isolated again, because it's just an isolating situation, whether you're in something that's supposed to help you connect with other people, or
you end up in a bit of a cycle.
Yeah, and although it's a shocking thing to hear, this is what the world is wanting us to do to generate money, it's also at what expense of our life, because what you're creating is very, very lonely people. You've got lonely people who are not connecting to the rest of the world. If you don't have Instagram and Snapchat and things like that, you're missing out. And I don't have that stuff, and I feel like sometimes I miss out. But at the same time, I also don't want to be I don't also want to be that person that just has their face in their phone all the time, because when I've got someone in front of me, I don't appreciate them. So I think you're either all in and you're all out. And to be honest, I don't know how we'll ever find that middle ground.
Yeah, I don't think it's easy, and I think each of us will have a different, our balance will be in a different spot to the next person's. I think it's also there's so much new media coming out. So there's TikTok and there's Snapchat and there's all these things that I'm way too old to be engaging with. But I know how popular they are. And I know that if I'm not working with young people anymore, but when I was, keeping on board with all of that stuff was so important, just to know what was going on in their lives. So I think that pressure for young people particularly to keep up with all of that stuff just seems completely unrealistic to me. So yeah, I don't disagree with anything you said there, Kayla. I think each of us finding our balance, hopefully some of the actions I've got later on will help with that. But can we go to the next slide if there's no one else?
Oh, I had some feedback. Sorry, I was on the phone and I'm like, I can hear what you're saying and I want to join in. So, I think the biggest thing is that we look at social media, and yes, it's kind of a love-hate relationship. I know for me personally, my Facebook is very small and it is for friends and family. And my Instagram, which is the only other one I have, because like you, Sabrina, I can't. It's a full-time job, social media. So, The other one I have is Instagram, and that's public, and it's particularly photos and little things that you can pop on. So it's not as personal. For our kids, the biggest thing I took from that movie and what I witnessed is the body dysmorphia. That's a real thing. It's a struggle, you know, as it said in the movie. They used to talk about magazines like, oh, they're all photoshopped, don't take it personally, people don't really look like that. Well, I mean, there's a huge business in apps now that do Photoshop for you. So there's no longer this sense of reality. And this makes kids very detached from reality. And my biggest fear is the amount of information or misinformation that they have access to. So, you know, I've got a 16-year-old, and I don't know everybody here, so we'll just refer to him as a 16-year-old. And he is very engaged in social media and TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat. I wish I could keep up with them all, but I can't. And he was talking about getting a nose job. He talks about being fat when he's got a phenomenal body on him. Then he gets upset if you tell him he has a phenomenal body. And then he wants a nose job. And now he wants to become an RN so that he can give people lip injections. And everything that is coming out of his mouth right now is a direct result of how media works. And we forget that it's not just Facebook. It's not just Instagram. It's not just social media platforms. Our newspapers are using this to sell. They have their own software and algorithms of their own. So it's not just coming from these platforms. It's coming from everywhere.
That's it.
And I personally do struggle with how it's affecting kids, and that's why I'm here today.
Yeah, I mean, you know, so for those who don't know, Emma's my cousin, so we know each other quite well. And we've had conversations similar to this previously about the impact on young people's mental health. Let's not just say children, because I think it goes up to a lot older than just, it doesn't cut off at 16. And the body dysmorphia is something that we do pick up on later in this conversation, Em. So yeah, don't hold on to that point. Can we go to the next slide, please? Thank you. So the next set of questions are about what purpose does social media have in your life? So literally leading on from what we were just saying, why do we use it? What's the purpose of having it? Do you have any safeguards to limit your screen time? And what did you used to do in the time before we had this kind of technology? So how many people take the phone into the bathroom with them? People do, like I know people, you need the phone in the bathroom. That's when they check their emails.
I generally, if I'm on my way to the bathroom, I'll stop, go back to the bedroom, pick up my phone.
Pick up the phone.
Right. Yeah, like I will not go to the bathroom without my phone, because that is like a journey.
Yeah, and I'll go and have a bath, but I have to have my phone in the bathroom with me, just in case someone needed me, which is ridiculous. What am I going to do for them if I'm in the bath? Like nothing.
Sabrina, Sam, one of the things I think. Hi there.
Go ahead.
One of the things I think wasn't made quite enough of, and it's I'm partly answering questions from the last slide, but I'll try and make them fit with this one too. Is the was it Maddie who was talking about going back to the bedroom to get the phone? That's familiar. One of the things I don't think they made quite enough of was the addictive nature of the like and the retweet. So I'm a long-time ex-smoker, but I know how difficult it was to quit smoking, because every single one of those cigarettes gave me 20 little hits, 20 little puffs, 20 little positive reinforcements. I'm a behavioural psychologist by training a while ago. So those positive reinforcements every single time, the actual physical addiction to nicotine, not terribly strong, but the fact that there are all those pairings and associations. In exactly the same way, every like and retweet, and the craving for, and the searching for, and the looking for, and the numbers going up on the apps absolutely are a means of positive reinforcement. They use the same brain neurochemistry. Simon Sinek, the Start With Why guy, the American consultant, he got into a bit of hot water a couple of years ago when he gave a talk about millennials, and we won't get sidetracked with that. But one thing he said in that talk I thought was really, really interesting. I mean, he was talking about the neurochemistry, and he was talking about the underlying mechanisms that make social media so addictive. And he said that giving a teenager unfettered access to social media was like giving the keys to the liquor cabinet to your teenage kid and saying, over to you, you get on with it. So, I mean, I think, there was a lot, I mean, Facebook, understandably and justifiably, and Facebook as the owner of Instagram
and
WhatsApp, absolutely, were absolutely in the spotlight around the time of Molly Russell's suicide, self-harming teenager suicide. And some of the most excruciating interviews you will ever see. Amal Raja on BBC with the Facebook spokesperson. I was, at the time, there was a lot of talk about, oh no, we're doing lots and lots of stuff. And month after month, only for a very short time, I would go into Instagram and just type in the word self-harm. Mm-hmm. And there was just, you could not find more of a horror show. And so if you wanted to look for that and you were a teenage boy or girl, then you would find it. I did it 5 minutes before coming on this, and I hadn't done it for about 6 months. And I typed that in, and it said, "Can we help? Post with words you're searching for often encourage behaviour that can cause harm and even lead to death. If you're going through something difficult, we'd like to help." Which for me was absolutely unbelievable, that this behemoth of a business, one of the biggest businesses in the world, appears to be taking it a tiny bit seriously. You don't have to probe very far to get the horror show images, mm-hmm. but there's some security. But the thing that I think is underestimated, and I don't think it was. There are lots of reasons I didn't like that film, as you know, in our discussion. The dramatization I thought was hammy. I thought it was melodramatic. I thought they wasted experts. Lots of things they did wrong. But the thing that I think they underplayed was the addictive nature of the way that it is, the way that these platforms are designed to give you these tiny crumbs of reward that keep you stuck in there.
Absolutely. We have a little clip that. It's part of the Netflix package that they gave us for doing this event. That we have an extra little bonus clip which talks very much about what you just said, Sam, about and the impact on young people particularly. I know a lot of you are here because either you work in the field or you have kids, but it talks about how it actually affects their brain. And I've done quite a lot of work over the years around how trauma affects their brain. And when we talk about how online bullying happens and how their self-esteem is very much linked to how many likes they get, there's nothing that's, as you know, it's no less traumatic than real world bullying or real world actions. You don't need to put your hands up, you can just cut me off.
Okay, can I hop in? All right, so
I was going to say, Dale had a comment as well. So I did say I was up next. Carry on.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Just quickly, what I was going to say that I found as a dad, two different dynamics of the same media platform, YouTube. I've always used it for information generally, everything from fixing cars, bikes, motorbikes and so on. It's quite useful for instructional information. But weirdly, as a parent, finding that my kids are watching YouTube to watch other people play computer games, very strange to me. But what I found more concerning about it, and it's completely uncontrolled, completely unpoliced, is the fact that there is a lot of negative reinforcement of opinion stated as fact on YouTube. And for little kids, you know, especially if they're having emotional issues, identity issues, and they're watching videos, listening to people who are essentially grown-ups by comparison, stating personal opinion as fact, and it's giving a reinforcement to certain views, opinions about whether it be preferences, even down to going back to what Emma was saying about appearances of what should be acceptable on how you look as to whether you need a nose job. This stuff is completely unmonitored.
Yeah, and that's part of the conversation about the algorithms that are prevalent throughout all of these kind of online interactions that we have now. the algorithms will give you an echo chamber. They will give you more of what you are already involved in or what you've already engaged with. And there's no right or wrong. The algorithm can't read, like you said in the thing about what's true or what's not. It's just something that you like will give you more of the thing that you like. So for me, the other day I found I got myself in a little rabbit hole of, you know, these little cooking, like little 5-minute cooking things. Yeah, 20 minutes later, I've not learned anything. I've not done anything useful with my time. I couldn't tell you any of the recipes and that they showed me, but I just blew 20 minutes of my life on like 4 or 5 of these little videos. So yeah, I don't know what the answer is necessarily, especially when you're managing younger children online, because the parental controls only go so far. But there are some tactics that we can discuss. So was there someone else? Emma?
Yeah, we have Emma and Lisa Hode have some comments. Emma, what would you like to say?
Well, I know that a lot of you are in the field of teaching and mental health and whatnot, and I come from marketing. So I studied marketing and I worked in marketing for years, and now I'm in sales. And, you know, the whole reward system was genius from Facebook's and Instagram's point of view, because think about it. When you look in your wallet, how many reward cards do you have? Even down to like a coffee reward card, right? People like to be rewarded. So back to Sam's point of this entire reward system, it was literally based on reward card systems, but not so much as in the, if you keep coming back, we'll give you something for free. But like you were saying, Sabrina, if you keep coming back, we keep seeing what you like, we keep seeing what you're interested in, we're going to keep giving you this stuff back. So I think when they initially came up with it, I don't think they were thinking about it as humans wanting to just get likes. I think they literally thought of it for the data collection. And it's really interesting. If you ever get the opportunity, if you want to mix marketing and mental health and how the brain works, pick up Biology by Martin Lindstrom. They actually put addicts, smokers, up to MRIs and then showed them photos of Marlboro cigarettes, Benson Hedges colors. Like sometimes they didn't even show the actual cigarettes. They just showed the packaging or like a red Ferrari. And you see the like just everything in their brains light up. And if you read that book, I do believe that it just explains social media so easily without even talking about social media. It's scary.
Can I ask you to put that in the chat so that I've got it for later on? The name of the book.
If I can figure it out, I will.
Yeah,
if I can figure out how to
or
do
you can
this.
message it to me later if that's easier.
Okay.
Yeah, Lisa, did you have a
Yeah,
comment?
I'll do that. Thanks.
Sorry, Lisa, you're still on mute.
Yeah, I did. I just want to say the biggest paradigm shift I think I had watching the program was that actually we're the product.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, you know, I've known social media has been very bad for a number of years. We have hard stops in our house and stuff like that. But this whole flip it on its head, actually we're the product. And then the social responsibility side of it in terms of the contagion tactics, the fact that you can affect the real world, this can affect the real world, just absolutely blew me away. And, you know, I was talking not long ago about what's going on to America with my husband. I was just chatting about civil war, and it spoke about that. And I was like, this is how it's all. I mean, we're story making machines, aren't we, humans? That's how we do it. Yeah. And now we've got this massive network to share stories that aren't, you know, well, they're not fact checked anyway, but it just blew my mind. So that's the only comment I want to make. I just wanted to come out a bit scope as well. It's just that we are the product. Wow.
And it's massive. And we've kind of blindly walked into it, like sleepwalked into it. You know, I was a massive advocate of social media. It saved our lives, you know, being able to have communication with our family and friends while we were in hospital, keeping us connected to the people we met in hospital so that we, even though from different parts of the country, we can stay in touch. That's meant so much to us. But when you look at it after watching this kind of program and understanding how it actually works, I feel quite differently. And I'm kind of torn because I run my business all remotely, all through social media. So the next slide is actually not a slide, it's the video that Netflix have given us, the bonus content. Do you want to put that on, Damien? If you don't mind. Oh. That's the one we should have tested.
Just so you're aware, I'm not getting any sound from that video.
Yeah, no, nor am I. We're just going to try and figure that out quickly. But if we can't,
yeah, technical difficulty. I'm not sure why that sound isn't playing.
Oh, that's a shame. It's a really good piece.
I think it's a general thing, Bree. We're not getting it either.
Yeah, no, I think it is the. Oh, we might have to skip it. That'd be a shame. I'll try and send you guys a link if we can't get it to work.
Sorry about that.
Oh, that's a shame. Basically, they say don't let your kids use the internet and don't let them use social media, because at the age that we start giving our children access to social media and all the devices is exactly the age that, or the point at which their development, that's the worst thing we could be doing. So
Charles said it best. What do kids look for when you give them a dictionary? The dirty words. You give them the internet, same thing with pictures.
It's not even about that. It's about how their brains develop. So you're programming them to do the gambling tech, you know, like clicking for likes and that kind of constant wanting to be fed the information and not always in a positive way. So it just reinforces all those negative mental health issues that we're aware of now, but that by giving our kids social media, just they sort of finish middle school, move into senior school, it's actually the worst time for them developmentally for us to be giving them that kind of engagement. I think I hadn't really figured that out because I think that's exactly when Aaliyah got her mobile phone. I'm just lucky that she's not that fussed.
Can you hear me?
Social media.
Hello?
Yeah.
Hang on, I think I might have this working. Let's just get this out.
Stop looking.
Yay!
Can everyone hear that?
Yeah.
I can.
The number one problem, the number one psychiatric disorder among teenagers is anxiety. Typically, it's anxiety about needing to check in social media.
Even though social media makes them more anxious, makes them more worried about missing out, they can't stop looking at it. That prefrontal cortex hasn't developed enough for them to be able to put it down, to say to themselves, it's not making me feel good.
The prefrontal cortex is the area of the brain that is involved in our cognitive control, our ability to process and direct our attention based on our goals. It's the last part of our brain developed.
This doesn't get completely myelinated until you're in your mid to late 20s.
So kids are getting these tools right when they have the least capability of actually controlling their behavior. I think we can confidently say that it's changing the way that teens interact with each other, with peers, with the world, and that those changes in their actions lead to sort of changes in behaviors, changes in psychiatric and sort of mental health.
We should not be surprised. And it's not just because the culture changed, it's because their brains have changed. They also get trained in instant gratification by these devices. And there's something very dangerous about that, because in real life, we don't get everything that we want instantly.
The outcome watching our teenagers and our young adults is so much that they become addicted to the continuous input of stimulus and information.
We know that there are many activities that are development, face-to-face communication, physical activities, exposure to nature, and sleep. I would say that all of these are linked in some way by increasing.
Sorry, Damien, can we pull the video?
The parents are in a really tough situation.
Yeah, it's just too sketchy.
Okay.
Unfortunately, it's a shame. I'm sorry it wasn't playing out as well for you guys as it should have been.
Can you show
But yeah,
the
I'll
link?
try and send you the link with the password because it's a password protected video. Yeah, I think you kind of get the
Bree,
most of what they're trying to
it's
say.
interesting. Alira and I were speaking, and we were thinking this is in part generational, and I think it is to do with being handed that thing while you're a teenager. I was just observing that on my YouTube, which is one of the things I do like to look at. The selection I'm offered is as random when I'm logged in as when I look at it logged out.
I'm not sure what that says about you though.
I think it just says that I either don't use it sufficiently or I use it so randomly that it can't lock onto specific things that I might be interested in. About the only thing that rolls up from time to time is if I've had a look on Amazon.
Okay.
So I think maybe it's a generational thing, and that my use of it is so random. I don't have things I particularly seem to focus on.
Right. See, all of mine's music on YouTube. It's not really anything else.
No, I can't even say that. I mean, there was that brief period with the camper vans, but apart from that,
Don't. That's an overshare. Back to the confidentiality comment at the beginning of the ground rules. So I went online to look at statistics to talk about mental health and the link to social media, and I didn't find very much that was open to the public. The Mental Health Foundation do have a study. It's not all about social media. It's got a few bits that are about social media, and it's about mental health in general. I think if you go and look at proper research rather than statistics that are out for the public, if you went and looked at actual research papers, you'd probably find a lot more information. This isn't a conspiracy theory. I'm not saying it's being suppressed or anything like that. I just don't think that it's necessarily in anyone's financial best interest to put that forward. I do think it's important for us to be aware of, I think when I was a kid, it's about how much time do your kids spend in front of the telly, especially when we went from sort of 4 channels to 5 channels, and then from 5 channels to the infinite number of channels that we have available now. I think there's lots of conversations by the adults then about, how much time we spend looking at the screen. We carry screens around in our pockets now. So I suppose it could only be, more and more and more concerning about how much time we're glued to the screen, whether it's, laptop, a TV, the phone in your hand. But yeah, there is more information out there if you wanted to have a look. The Mental Health Foundation do have a study, and the link can be shared in the email if you guys are interested. Mind also have loads and loads of really good resources, but less with regards to the actual research. They only have a few figures that they throw out to help promote whatever it is their current program is that promoting. But the particular one for me was about body image. So we're back to the conversation we had earlier that Emma was mentioning about body dysmorphia. And how social media images cause body image concerns for 22% of adults and 40% of teens. I mean, I feel like they're quite high figures for anything. But the fact that it's impacting adults as well as young people, the whole body image thing and body dysmorphia is a big part of the mental health that I do and how people perceive themselves. So, yeah, if anybody wants to chip in, I know we kind of covered it already, and body image is a massive thing for society in general. What's the norm, what's acceptable, and it goes beyond being the right size or having the right kind of hair. It's, we're talking about with regards to our gender, with regards to our sexuality, with regards to our ethnicity, with regards to, I'm 5'2.5". I stopped growing at 13. I've had to get over that, but there were times where it caused me a significant amount of distress on the inside. So we all have our hang-up.
Sabrina, sorry. Something I can comment on, like with recent, doing my studies at the moment and being in the industry I've been in for the last 10 years or so nearly, the attitude towards mental health and mental well-being, like positive mental health, mental well-being, is still from, I suppose, a business and I suppose from the government mentality, is still really weak, because if you look at the study materials for health and safety, it's only really been probably in the last 10 years where it's been more than just a page.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And in the last 5 years now, we're actually, again, rather than it just being a page, it's becoming a whole element within the training material, and then links into other areas of how it can affect safe working practices and people's understanding and comprehension of what they're supposed to be doing, and even down to communication lines being blocked by poor mental health issues. But
yeah, the legal responsibility of your employer is still, like, they
to
are
make
legal.
reasonable requests to make sure they understand where you are if you're okay.
Yeah.
But the reality is, most people still aren't really aware of how important it is and to understand their own mental health. And there's a serious, I would say definitely, there's a serious lack of understanding of what their employers are required to do, even if it's in regard to pointing out that your employer is putting so much stress on you. You know, when you've got people going, yeah, I've been here since 5 a.m. and I didn't leave till 7. It's like, clearly, if you're doing like a 70-hour week, you're either doing too much or you're no good at your job. There's two choices there.
Yeah. Yeah. And
you know, Dale, that's here too. Like, sorry, go on, Brina. I was going to just chip in on that.
You still only get paid your 9 to 5, right?
Exactly.
So,
but you're working twice as many hours and doing probably 3 or 4 times as much work.
Yeah. And the sad thing for me is that actually it's not just how unbalanced that is for your life, but that you don't know what your rights are. And the whole point of this session today is about raising awareness. So that's exactly what we're here for. Sorry, Emma, did you want to?
Well, I was just going to say, like, and it is personal, but it's not too personal, so don't worry. I literally had this conversation with my supervisor today. She said, oh, we're all working on the weekend and you can come on Saturday. And I went, no. And she went, well, you'll get overtime. And I said, no. She was like, well, why? And I said, she goes, don't you want the money? And I said, no, I'd like my sanity and I have tickets to something. So, you know, you guys have fun and work it overtime, but I'm not going to. And she went, oh, well, I guess you're allowed to say no. And I said, yeah, I know I am.
Allowed to say no, as if they can force you.
But
I love
the
those
thing
ones.
is, they put all of these, and I'm sure you have the same in England, but they put all of this time and money into mental health, that the moment quarter end comes around or the profits aren't coming in or something happens, well, fuck your mental health. Like, that's it. We need you to work. We need you to hit that bottom line. And, you know, I think a lot of it is not just knowing your rights. I think a lot of it is corporate culture and the steering of, well, like Dale said, so-and-so worked from 5 to 7. Well, do you want a medal for it? Like,
here's a cookie.
You know, yeah, exactly. Like, no, it's not going to help you in the long run.
Yeah, no, I agree completely.
Yeah, just adding to what Emma was saying, I worked at a place years ago that should remain nameless, but when my first child was born, I booked 2 weeks holiday so I could have the time with him, blah, 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 help his mum be supportive, be at home. And I also booked several weeks unpaid leave, which I found out later I got paid for. And it was down to the fact that my manager, to try and discourage me from taking the time off at all, had lied, saying, no, you're not entitled to it. You haven't been here long enough. You know, you're the dad, not the mum, blah, blah, blah. And basically what had happened was someone in HR had seen my reason for taking my holiday and gone, we need to pay him for this. These are the rules. If he catches on, we could be in court. Yeah. And this kind of thing happens a lot in the same place every year. People were forced, because there was mandatory overtime on a weekend, to do the end of year stock take, which was actually illegal, I found out later on. But at the time, I was in my early 20s, I didn't know the law.
Yeah.
And they bullied a lot of people with that.
Yeah, workplace bullying is really high up on the list of causes for depression, amongst other mental health issues. But yeah, these kind of things. Go on, Sam.
I just wanted to add, Sabrina, one of the I know, I mean, how do you begin to list the negatives of the pandemic? But one of the very real, unspoken, because it's kind of silent negatives of the pandemic, is that those of us who can work from home are working from home, right? Many of us chose to do that 50, 60, 80% of the time. Those of us that can are. Those that didn't before, so it's gone in the UK, YouGov figures show it's gone from 5 to 50% of people are now working from home almost all of the time. With that jump, that tenfold increase, there has also been an additional an average of between 8 and 12%, let's call it 10% more work done for no more money, and often for salary sacrifice. Partly, that's because what else am I going to do? I'm at home, I can't go out, I can't see anyone, I can't do anything. Okay, maybe, you know, you'd have thought when lockdown eased a bit in July, August, that would have changed. Didn't change at all. Actually, people worked harder. And it's time that we're giving away, and we really shouldn't. All of the talk about work-life balance, and I know we're going to talk about social media, non-social media balance, but all of the talk about work-life balance, whenever I hear that phrase, it makes me want to run my fingernails down a blackboard, because it should be life-work balance. You know, the American-French thing: live to work, work to eat. Well, live to work to live. Live to eat, eat to live. You know, our lives are not even those of us that run our own businesses. Our lives are not about that. They're about our lives, and the work is a very important, meaningful part of it. But giving away that extra 10% under the pandemic is. It's going to be very hard not to be doing that once people go back into offices. Really hard.
Yeah, I mean, we found it hard because we don't check the time as much. So, you know, my day was you know, broken up by things which now no longer happen. So I go, oh, okay, well, my partner will be home from work soon. But when Damien gets home, that's when I stop to do that. That doesn't happen because there's no one coming home. We're all home already. So if it gets past 6 o'clock, we're suddenly like, oh, we've you know, dinner's not done. And so, yeah, the time thing that actually getting up and going to work put into our lives has disappeared as well, which doesn't help. So the next slide, please, Damien, is an opportunity. So I've put in one answer. What are the areas where social media impacts our mental health? So we've kind of had an answer from Sam already, because he's very good at this, and he kind of must have known what my next slide was. So work-life balance should definitely go in there in the next bullet point. But what other items do people think need to be going in there with regards to how social media impacts our mental health? We've got body image, we've got work-life balance. Has anybody else got other suggestions? I've got a load. I've been making notes.
Yeah, I've got one for sure. Finances. Like, I can't even begin to tell you. I don't have that kind of money to be spending on online shopping all the time, but I have friends that get all kinds of stuff all the time. And I have one friend in particular. She recently saw a coat online. It kept showing up in Facebook and Instagram and TikTok. This coat kept showing up. She finally bought it. Unfortunately, it wasn't what was advertised.
Shocker.
Yeah, so definitely finances, yeah.
Yeah. Aaliyah, do you want to come in on that one? Because you love a bit of online shopping.
As soon as you Google something on any search engine, it comes up on Facebook and it advertises exactly what you were looking at, or a variation of what you were looking at. And it's the algorithms listening and trying to draw you in.
That's actually called retargeting, and it's a definite marketing tool, and it's where you retarget the ads. So when somebody asks you for the cookie, they're taking your IP and they're taking all your information and they're retargeting. So if you are showing a picture of a t-shirt and you agree to certain cookies, then they're able to take your information and show you that image again and again on every single platform until you click. Yeah. Do you know what the click-through rate is for retargeting?
No, go on.
6. So they figured out that if they show you an ad approximately 6 times, the majority of people will click on it and buy it.
Wow. Doesn't feel like a lot, actually, does it?
Exactly. It's shocking.
But just quickly, going on what Emma said about the cookies, has anybody else realised, or I say realised, it's not necessarily fact, but I feel personally, but cookies is now almost that kind of, because they if you read the statements they put in, they all follow the kind of GDPR, we're trying to protect your information rubbish, almost swore then. But the fact that actually there's a lot of pages now that you click on, they ask you for your cookies, you say no, it will kick you off the page or bring up a cookie information privacy page. That means you can't view the page unless you accept their cookies. If you say no, it will not let you view the page. And for me, that's another form of bullying almost.
Yeah, that happens a lot actually with a lot of pages.
And the other thing is, who is actually reading those T's and C's? No one's reading them. You just click OK because you want to see what's on that page.
Exactly that. I want to bring it back to what you were saying about, you know, what other things does social media impact on, and like the whole life-work balance, but it's the family time. People don't connect with their families. You could be sitting at the dinner table, people have got their phones. Even in Social Dilemma, they show that clip. And yeah, people do it all the time. Like I have a son, and sometimes I'll be here downstairs, instead of shouting me or whatever, he rings me or he'll text me or and I'm like, no, I don't answer.
I'm guilty for that. I will definitely WhatsApp people from upstairs.
I won't answer.
Yeah.
No.
I WhatsApp Aaliyah as well, actually. I'm terrible when I'm downstairs and I'm like, can you just, when you come down, can you please bring me?
Come on, it is a bit of a lifesaver if you're playing Toon Blast on the toilet and realise there's no toilet paper.
Needs must.
Oh,
God. Yeah, no, you're not wrong. I think family time does really suffer.
There's a balance somewhere. There's always a balance.
Yeah, we go through phases of. Aaliyah's nearly 18, as most of you know. We don't really ban social media. She's too big. I can't actually tackle her anymore. Like, couldn't rugby tackle her to the ground now. So banning social media or banning phones or whatever, we don't really need to. We can just have a conversation and go, actually, Josh, we just put our phones on silent for the next couple of hours while we do whatever it is we're going to do together as a family. But I know it's not easy for everyone. When that little girl smashed the container in the film, ooh, I lost my rag. I was like, but that's a conversation for another day. I'm going to leave that, boundaries and behaviour management for a next time. So
I want to throw another big issue into the mix. I don't know any of you guys apart from Sam. He and I do this Small Data Forum podcast together. He thought it would be a good idea for me to join, so we can disagree about the social dilemma, which we actually don't. The phrase that I want to add to the list is radicalization, and I think it's a really big deal. And it's when we talk about body image for girls, it's sort of evolving self-image and being taken off track for sort of adolescent boys in certain online forums. And it's really unfortunate, as Sam was saying very rightly, that the dramatization in the Social Dilemma was handled in such a clumsy way. Because I think that topic is absolutely central, and there are a couple of really good books out. One was published literally yesterday about, in both cases, it's young women researchers. One is more on the academic side, the other one is more of a journalist, going undercover into chat rooms and sort of right-wing chat rooms, incel chat rooms, and participating and then writing books about their experiences. And I'll share the links in a second. The first one is by, she's actually German, Julia Ebner, who's she's a radicalization academic, I think King's College London or something. Her book is called Going Dark. And so she went undercover mainly in sort of European chat rooms and wrote about her experiences. The other one that was published yesterday is by an American journalist called Talia Lavin, and it's called Culture Warlords. And she really infiltrated US-based chat rooms and neo-Nazi chat rooms and sort of Aryan supremacist stuff. I think they are really, really insightful, and can teach us a lot about what's actually happening on the ground. I mean, it's one thing to talk about, you know, big picture aggregation, bird's eye view on sort of general trends, but what these two researchers did, they actually went into the chat rooms and experienced it firsthand, first sight, with very, very negative emotional reactions for themselves as well. So I think the radicalization bit is really critical in all of this.
Yeah, thank you for sharing, and thank you for joining us as well, Thomas. I did listen to your podcast, and I appreciate you guys don't always see eye to eye, but it's always entertaining. So well done for that.
Yeah, we need to learn to disagree more. It's more fun when we really disagree.
Absolutely. Please do share the book links for us in the chat, then we can include them in the email that we send out. So yeah, I mean, I feel radicalization is one of the things, as a person of colour, has been huge for me in the last year or so. The negative reactions and the rudeness that I've faced personally, because I am an educator and I do promote inclusion and equality, and I do call people out when I see them behaving in a way that's inappropriate. It has lost me friends. It has lost me connections. It has lost me hours and hours of my life arguing with idiots online. And I think even that is part of the rabbit hole. You end up getting pulled in to that kind of polarization of a them and us, and how that can affect your mental health. Because for me, that was quite a big lesson that I had to learn, to just withdraw from those interactions, because they don't benefit anybody. The person I'm trying to talk to is not going to learn and change their mind from what I'm saying. So why am I wasting my breath? I think that's something that we probably need to be more aware of. It's not, you know, the radicalization bit is a massive issue, and in lots of different forums. The far right is the one that concerns a lot of us, but actually there's lots of other extreme behaviors and extreme pockets of society that people can get drawn into, which are probably just as damaging, particularly to our mental health, particularly to mental health of young people.
You know, I would put that down as one of your things, Sabrina. So for the social media impacting mental health, it's a misdirection of energy, where you could be using your brain power and your energy for something else. We all go down those rabbit holes.
Oh yeah,
it's brutal, especially our family.
Absolutely, because we all have a good argument.
Sabrina, I wanted to add to that, because it is, as you know, I'm big on the old radicalization topic, and it's not just the radicalization for me, it's the desensitization towards the attitudes and radicalization itself that people are not getting, and they're becoming desensitized to it and not even realizing that they're becoming desensitized to it because of the different algorithms that are coming up on their feeds, or the information that they choose to look at, and that in itself is just as damaging as radicalization itself.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think we can all probably point at a moment where we realise we're becoming desensitized. I had a conversation at the height of the whole George Floyd scenario, where I've not seen the video to this day, and I refuse to. I'm not watching any more of these kind of violence, and it's not just like the Black Lives Matter kinds of violence, you know, police brutality, any of it. I don't want to watch any of that kind of stuff. That's not on my agenda to spend any of my time watching that kind of violence. It's not necessary. I can understand it without having to actually commit those images to my mind. So yeah, there's a wider scope about how we choose as individuals to engage, and what is acceptable for us personally. So I don't watch the news. I've removed myself from all of that because I just don't see that it has any benefit for me. I can find out what's going on in the world without the bias and without the trauma affecting updates on COVID numbers or whatever. I don't need that to get on with my day-to-day life. So the other things I've got on my list for the way that social media impacts on our mental health. Sorry?
We've got a couple of things in the chat.
Oh, go ahead.
So we've got shorter attention spans, lack of focus from Maddie. We had Arlington, digital connection is the opiate for personal interaction. and Hannah shared an interesting fact about Dima Yaronovsky, who is an artist who actually produced some popular work which was involved displaying the full terms and conditions for popular for popular products and apps. And the longest one was for Fitbit, which was, when printed out, was 9.5 meters long, 17,000 words, and took 85 minutes to read.
Wow. Anyone got a Fitbit? Mum, I know you've got one. Did you read?
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you read every single word of that whole?
No, I scanned.
You didn't.
I scanned through it.
And this is somebody who is pedantic and, you know, attention to detail.
But you see, I'm also that person that I go into where you control their contact and go, no, 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 no.
I get that, but still, the terms and conditions, they might own your soul for all you know, if you had one.
Have to find it first.
Yeah, I agree.
I wanted to add something, and I don't know how many of you are single here or how many of you have actually used the social media dating apps, but I would say it impacts your health by lack of boundaries as well. When somebody gets behind a screen, much like the keyboard warriors in all the different forums, people say and send stuff that would not be appropriate if you met them at a museum or a bar. And I think that has a huge impact on adults' mental health and on teens that are using these apps as well, on their mental health. There's just such a lack of boundaries now.
I was going to say relationship boundaries, I think, has probably suffered quite a lot with regards to that whole thing. So one of the things I've actually put down on my list was about unrealistic ideals. And I've commented, like, parenting, general life, money. I see people like posting these lavish looking holidays and these amazing shoes or bags or whatever, and I'm just like, do you pay your bills? Because I swear I see you on the bus the other day. What's going on? There's a big thing about, fake it till you make it, like really, really negative tropes that are just really popular currently. About having that fake, Instagram life. My life's not Instagram worthy, so I don't really Instagram too much. Then I've got on my list addiction and the real world sacrifices that we make to spend time online. Like, how often do we find ourselves scrolling, not for any real purpose? We could be doing something really useful, really beneficial. Could be eating cake. Like, get off social media. Then I talked about bias and limited perceptions, about critical thinking and how we create those echo chambers. I find quite often I don't have a lot of people who argue with me over Facebook and that anymore. My circle is very much people who are part of my real tribe, my real life tribe. And we generally have very similar, not necessarily exactly the same, but very similar kinds of opinions. So I don't have anyone to really butt heads with on that stuff anymore, mostly because I'm right. But sometimes do we need that? Do we need a sort of oppositional opinion just to help us gauge how objective we're really being? Maybe I don't need that in social media because I have it in the real world, but that's something to very much be aware of. I think the echo chamber is part of the radicalization, part of the rabbit holes that we can get caught up in.
Sabrina, I'm going to add another book into the chat. I'm going to hold it up. It's called Calling Bullshit in the Age of Big Data, and it's written by two American practicing academics. One teaches biology, one teaches social science, called Bergstrom and West, and they run a MOOC, a massive open online course called Calling Bullshit in the Age of Big Data. And what they are arguing for, and I think it's been a common thread, it's not the thread, but a thread through all of this. What they argue for is the teaching of and it can be, you can teach yourself, and you can teach yourself through this MOOC as well, of a critical faculty of knowing what's bullshit and what isn't, what's likely to be right and what isn't, and to build up those filters. Because as many people have said, as we're pushed down these rabbit holes, as we are retargeted and reserved the same kind of stuff, and we sit in our echo chambers, it's incredibly hard to kind of understand. Surely there's no other way of looking at it. I strongly recommend it. I'll put it in the link.
Thank you very much, Sam. It's always good. I love a good book list. And as an avid reader. So yeah, my final one was really about technology advancing quicker than human beings are ever going to be able to evolve to manage that. And then my last one, which is my answer to everything, follow the money. If you're ever wondering why something is happening or who's funding, when you don't figure out who's funding things, you understand what their purpose is. And a lot of the free apps, their purpose is to sell you stuff. That's fine if you understand it. After seeing this film, before seeing the film, I thought I understood. After watching the film, I'm a little bit more taken aback, I suppose. I had a reasonable understanding, but clearly not anywhere near enough. And I'll be having to revisit how I make the most informed decisions regarding my usage. I hope that doesn't sound too dramatic, but that's kind of where I'm at with it. If there's anyone else who's got anything to add to the list, I am making notes of what you guys are saying, and we're going to save the chat, and I'll put together like a little package for everyone. So the information from the discussion is saved and hopefully useful. I'm also going to say we've only got 20 minutes left of our 90 minutes. Now I have allowed in my calendar sort of a 2-hour session, but if people need to drop out or if people want us to speed up so we can get it done in the 90 minutes, I'm happy to do that. But I kind of feel like everything that's being shared is really valid and I don't want to rush anybody. So yeah, if people need to drop off, I fully understand.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi. I just wanted to say one of the things as well that you touched on a bit about addiction, but actually social media is used a lot for self-soothing, like alcohol, lots of other things we do to numb out uncomfortable emotions. So we're becoming a society that can't handle difficult things. So we're becoming less resilient as we go.
Yeah.
We've got so much access to things that help us numb.
No, I agree. I think you're absolutely right. And I think resilience is a massive issue for us as a community, as society currently. Hence the course I'm about to start delivering in a couple of weeks about building resilience. Shameless plug, sorry. And things like social media really, really chip away at our ability to maintain our resilience skills, because all the things that make us much more happy, much more balanced in ourselves kind of get stripped away by our use of social media. As we were talking about body image and all of those things. And I think the addiction to self-soothing issue for people particularly with anxiety is a huge one, because to keep doing that scrolling and keep getting those dopamine hits from keeping on, just doing that, the slot machines and stuff is so easy without any realization we're even doing it. You can catch ourselves doing it so easily. I'm going to move on to the next slide. But yeah, if anyone does need to jump off, I fully understand, don't worry. So my question, and this has been my question for the last couple of weeks since watching the show, are we effectively using social media as a tool? Because it's a tool, all of these things, the laptop, the phone, they're all tools. Are we using them effectively? Are they serving whatever purpose? And then there's a whole thing about who's responsible for making the necessary changes, and does it require collective action? So about who's responsible, obviously we are all individually responsible for our own use, but is there something that we should be holding, Facebook? I'm using Facebook because they own actually a number of the other platforms, but any of these platforms, holding them more to account? Is there something that should be in place? I mean, I don't know if anyone else, I know Lisa Lovell saw their Facebook's response to this show, and they were very, trying to deflect a lot of what was said, going, no, you're not the product, that's not true. I don't know if anyone else saw their response, but I found it quite interesting. They weren't really taking very much responsibility for what was shared in this program. So yeah, if anyone wants to come on in any of these topics.
Yeah. It's interesting, Bree, that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez in the Congress, a brilliant politician, marked as at some point, if we can get rid of Trump, become the president. Oh, if only. She took Zuckerberg to task about the publication of lies. and the repeat and the allowing of the reproduction of fake news on the platform, and the radicalization that could sponsor. And the basic answer that he gave was, it was the same deflection. No, it's not our fault. You know, we're doing our best. But as with everything, legislation, potential legislation, runs behind technology and science, always runs behind. That's why there are all kinds of problems around reproductive rights, and, you know, who owns the embryos that are frozen, and all those kinds of, nobody thought that that was coming. Yeah. And now it's here.
Yeah, there's a big legal versus moral. Just because it's legal doesn't make it right kind of argument.
So, but then the responsibility to protect us allegedly sits with our governments, but our governments are now so corrupt that they run with the money. Only now they are saying out in the open the things that used to be kept hidden. And it's, how do you then move that? Because you're moving you have to be somehow able to move the people that are holding the levers of control. We don't hold them.
Accountability.
We can jump up and down, squeak as much as we like, put as many angry faces across Facebook or whatever as you want to. That is not action in the real world. That is not actually moving anything.
Yeah, there's a lack of accountability, I find, but...
Well, the lack of accountability runs with the money greasing the wheels. We know
there's also, I would say, like from legal standpoint, on social media, there's a lack of legal enforcement. Cambridge Analytica and Facebook were actually found to have broken the law, and what was done? What was actually done? They misused information, broke the laws in this country and America, and nothing was done.
Yeah, and
so at the moment, there's a massive gap in the enforcement side of it.
Well, it's a disenfranchising of government. Government has become owned by the corporate.
Owned by? I mean, I think that's probably, they are the corporate. If you look at
if you made them aware, they're not directly, but there's a revolving door between the two.
Yeah.
No, they are.
And
I beg to differ.
If you made them wear the logos of the companies who lobby them, who contribute to campaigns, to party funds, it would soon become incredibly clear that the exercise we go through when we vote, and I'm not advocating that anybody shouldn't vote when they have opportunity, that the thing that we do when we vote is fast becoming window dressing.
True.
We go through the motions of having a democracy that is constantly being undermined.
That's just how the rest of our life now goes through social media. It's just been taken into the political arena as well. I don't want it to get too much into politics. I do want it to be much more about mental health today, but I don't disagree with what you're saying, as you well know.
But I think that the feeling of powerlessness that is generated from that, and you see it all over social media right now, the way people feel so powerless about these things actually feeds into the mental health issues.
I mean, there's nothing that happens in our life that doesn't have an impact on our mental health. That's just the reality. All of our experiences are going to have a positive or negative effect on how we feel about ourselves and the world we live in. The feeling of hopelessness that can be generated, especially, I had quite a number of calls for mental health recovery and crisis support at the peak of reporting around the COVID numbers. Like, people were watching the news like 24 hours and getting really distressed. So I feel like the news is just not a good thing for people to watch. You need to remove yourself, because you can't change what's happening out there, but what you can do is change how much of an impact it has on you. So if you take a little step back, actually you realise that your day-to-day life is not going to be impacted that much. So yeah, you can't change the things that are happening outside, but we can change how we look at them, how we interact with them potentially. The next slide is about exactly that. Can we switch over? Thank you. What are you going to change in response to what you learned? What support do you think would be useful, and how will you monitor your social media usage and mental health moving forward? Spoiler, I've got a trick for that. So if you haven't downloaded the resource that comes with this session today, we can be sending that link over to you at some point in the next 24 hours. So yeah, anybody have any major impacts on their social media usage? I know Sam doesn't actually have Facebook. We had this conversation, didn't we? And I've reduced my social media usage on particularly Facebook significantly, other than promoting the business.
We did indeed. I mean, I was, and Thomas will remember when we were just setting up the podcast about four and a half years ago. We were often talking on conference stages, media industry conference stages, and it was the height of the Cambridge Analytica Facebook scandal. Well, whilst Cambridge Analytica was still a business, and I just felt like a complete hypocrite by still having a Facebook account and saying things I was saying from the stage. And the act of deleting Facebook, I wish I had deleted Facebook. All I did was delete my own account. But I tried to get in there, failed. The act made me feel light. It made me feel it was so gorgeously lovely. I'd like to experience that every day. I suppose I've got plenty of other social media accounts I should also be deleting. But just not having to participate in that anymore. It's been business limiting. There are business groups. Sweden, you and I are both part of the same accelerator program. I can't see any of the Facebook stuff on that. I can't. But I don't feel that I'm missing out, because people will send me a carrier pigeon sometimes.
You're really not missing out when it comes to that. Yeah, I mean, I've really limited my personal Facebook interaction, all my social media, because I know you guys can see that I'm posting everywhere, every day. It's all done through an intermediary app. So I'm not on Facebook, but I'm posting there every day because I can just set it up and it does it itself. So I don't actually have to log in. So I've been able to remove myself from the social media by doing it all through an app, which I think is absolutely worth the money. I've just gained so much of my own time back. And yeah, I don't have to completely remove myself. I can be present without actually being present. So business-wise, there are loopholes. Personally, I don't engage that much now. Does anybody else have you decided that's it? No social media. I'll throw my phone in a bin. Anyone gone to the kind of extremes?
I used to come off every so often. I would just shut down. I'd disable my account for a few weeks and then come back. But I like it. I like being able to be in touch with my friends and family that are all over the world. And it's helped me a lot with feeling isolated sometimes, especially with COVID. I think going forwards, as much as there's a drinking age and, over here you're allowed to smoke dope and there's an age on that as well. Maybe we should have an age for technology, and when kids hit a certain age, they're allowed to get social media. I have a really good example.
There are ages. You're not supposed to join Facebook before I think it's 13. And other social media have different ages. I can't remember what they all are off the top of my head. I'm one of those bad things.
Fascinating in the documentary.
Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, fascinating in the documentary, every single one of those whistleblowers, Uber's former head of this and Instagram's former head of that. Do your kids have Facebook? No, absolutely not.
Yeah, exactly.
Do they have any smart devices? Yeah. No chance. Absolutely no way.
Yeah.
And that's what I was going to say. I think devices. I think it's the device. Unfortunately, it's the device. I remember I gave Ollie his first iPod when he was so young, and he sent me a video telling me he'd eaten all the sweets. And, then he got his first phone, because being a single mum and him going to school by himself, I was like, oh God, no, I need to be connected 100% of the time. And now I look back on it, I'm like, what did I do? If there was a legal age for smartphones and that kids under the age of 16 or whatever had to have flip phones, I think it would be a very different. Yeah, exactly. It would be a very different world. But
one of those old Nokia bricks. That's what
But I mean, back to what your mum and you were saying. There's no technology moves too fast for our industrial revolution based government to be able to stay on top of it, and it's really unfortunate. But yeah, I say age limit on certain technology.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's a bad idea. I think you should definitely have a go at pitching that. I'm one of those parents. So Leah had a phone. I signed her up for Facebook before she was old enough to have Facebook. It was all under management, and actually she's not that fussed by social media as much now. My argument was she spent a lot of time going between mine and her dad's houses. I couldn't be with her all the time, but we could interact without having to be on the phone through these kind of mediums. And it maybe wasn't the best thing, looking back with the information I have now, but it felt like a place that we could engage safely then, hindsight and all of that. But I'm just going to quickly let everyone know we are 5 minutes from the 8:30 finish time. So if you're happy to carry on for the next half hour and try and get through the rest of the content, Lisa H, you're looking tired, babe. Like, do you want to come? Feel free to come off and go and have a drink and whatever, because I know it's quite a lot of information. It's quite a lot of quite deep conversation. So if anyone does want to come off for the half past, I will not be insulted or offended at all. But I'm quite happy to carry on to 9 o'clock if people are happy to do that.
I was going to say, I watched a programme the other night by accident, so you'll have to kind of forgive me, I don't remember the name of it. However, they had 3 or 4 comedians go and look at tech currently under development. And one of the things they've done is brain mapping. The primary purpose was to use with disability. So it would be able to make prostheses respond to neurological signals. They are now testing it to fly drones.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I mean, that's quite terrifying. And how addictive would that be to have your child stick a headset on their head and fly a drone or move a toy or shoot a gun?
And the thing is, all these technologies start out as something really valuable and really to aid humanity and make us better, and then
very
quickly turns it into a weapon.
So what it tends to do is it starts out with trying to do a social good. It then becomes militarized and moves off into destroying things. And then it becomes trivialized and becomes the stuff of social media and toys and games and apps.
Yeah,
I think with a lot of the stuff, social media, new technology, anything that you can link to your mobile phone, a tablet or everything, I think it goes back to what Sam was saying earlier about, I can't remember the guy's name, but there's a guy who comments on social media a lot, and it's the instant gratification, it's the instant response.
Yeah.
But kids have no patience anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And social media doesn't help with that because everything is there. Press a button, even down to shopping. You click a button and it's there at your doorstep the next day.
Instant gratification.
Yeah, I mean, there is a lot to be said for it in certain circumstances. I think we've taken it a little bit far now.
Oh yeah, don't get me wrong. For medicine and so on, great idea. There's so many bits of tech that are great for, helping humanity. But as Mum said, as Darrell said, there's a big difference when it starts to get weaponized. Essentially, even social media weaponized now.
Everyone will try and monetize it. It's all very well you can do something that's for the greater good, but it will eventually somebody will want to monetize it, and that often is detrimental, and that often goes down the route of weaponizing in whatever form. It hasn't got to be like bullets, but to weaponize it in whatever form. Like the pharmaceuticals have been weaponized. If you're not rich, you can't pay for your medicine, and it's going that way here as well, unfortunately. So the next slide is where we move on to the how. What do we do now? So what now? How do we move forward? I stole this image. It's not mine. My friend John, I don't think he's joined us today, but yeah, I just thought it was hilarious because I love the Alien versus Predator films, so that just tweaked my interest, and I borrowed it. I don't have the IP for this at all. So the next bit is the next slide, please, Damien. In the resource that goes along with this session, I've given everybody this little diary. It comes with a full explanation of how to use it, and it's just an opportunity for people who might want to record it's 28 days, it's a month, but you can print off as many as you want. Record your screen time versus your feeling of well-being. So in the instructions, it says give yourself a score each day from 1 to 10 of how your mental health and well-being is. And also you can use it to record your screen time. At the end of the week, you add up your totals and you've got a little space at the bottom to do your reviews in case there's any notes or particular bits and pieces you want to add. So don't include your work or college or school screen time, just your social screen time. But yeah, that's a resource that I'm going to put together. And I'd be really interested if you guys would have a go at filling it out and getting back to me, just drop me an email or whatever of how you feel that went. In the back of that resource, there's also some, what's the word? Contact details for mental health support services, which may be useful. Can I jump to the next? So yeah, the resource has a whole explanation of how to use the diary. I don't know if everyone knows how to access how much screen time you've used on your phone. If you haven't had a look yet, go into your settings and it will be listed as something like digital well-being, screen time or parental controls. And it should give you a screen that looks like this with the little charts on telling you how many hours you've spent on each of the different apps. So the one on the left is actually my little screenshot from my phone, and the other one is one I stole off the internet because don't know anyone's got an iPhone at the moment. We've all got Samsung, my bad. But yeah, if you want to record all that stuff, if you do entertain that, let me know how you get on, because I'd be interested to know if your numbers are reflective of each other or if you find they don't have any impact particularly. Next slide, please. So the next bit of what I wanted to discuss with you, Damien can have a link as well in the chat. I'm going to be putting together, or I'm going to be offering, I've already put it together, a Building Resilience course. It's primarily aimed at parents, but it's for families in general. And it'll be starting 2 weeks from today. It's 8 weeks of delivery, and I'm going to be targeting, it's all about skills and focusing how we support our children to build their resilience. So it's on a discounted rate for this intake because it's the first time I've delivered it online and not in person, but I've delivered it a number of times in person to sort of parent carer groups and things like that. It's really valuable. The activities and the resources that you take away with you are things that I found to be helpful in our personal experience, managing anxiety and supporting families, so as a family hub, to impress upon people how important the cognitive behaviour cycles are. So yeah, that's part of the offering, and I'm promoting it today to you guys just because this is a great platform to be able to talk to you and practice. So the next slide is about how, can I have the next one? This is one of the techniques that I've used when I was doing the cognitive behaviour work about, so I used to do a lot of emotional management for young offenders, for those of you who don't know. And this is one of the techniques that I came up with, and I've just developed it slightly to be able to use for this social media, to be able to break away a little bit from how much we use it, and especially if we get into a situation where we're feeling drained or we're feeling stressed and it's just not meeting our needs, not fulfilling our purpose. So it's called the 7 R's. There's a resource that comes along with this as well. It's just a couple of pages, but it's about removing yourself, stepping away from the situation, redirecting your energy. So taking a time out. I love a nap, so I'll always put nap at the beginning of the list, but it could be anything. Go for a walk, meditate, maybe read a book, just do something away from your social media, away from your device, taken out from that screen time. Replenish, which is about your self-care needs. So hydrate, have something to eat, do some exercise. Again, a nice little walk or stepping outside and seeing some fresh air would probably be a really good way of replenishing. Reflect. So particularly for me, where I was getting caught up in sort of arguments with people I didn't agree with politically, or specifically around Black Lives Matter kind of arguments, it would be about trying to calm and consider the challenge. We love journaling in our household. We do a lot of journaling. So if you are somebody who likes to express yourself in that way, making a note can be helpful, because you can go away. Next time is that reframing. So have a look at it from a different perspective, and how valuable spending your time is doing that. Is it helping you? Is it getting you where you want to be? Because if it is, that's fine. If it's not, you need to look at it again, which is about revisiting, looking at it with fresh eyes, when you're reframed mindset. And then the final one is about reviewing it. So every so often we should all be reviewing our behaviour and how it's impacting on us. If we're getting the results we want, then that's brilliant. Often we find there's things we could do to make the results we're getting better. And that includes monitoring our interactions with social media. So through this sort of 7-step process, we can reduce how much time we spend, or only spend time doing the things that are beneficial to us when we are using social media. Be it interacting with our long distance family, or, you know, promoting businesses of people we care about, going through photographs, whatever it is that it benefits you, that's great. And reduce the amount of time you're doing stuff that doesn't benefit you, or that causes you anguish and, you know, despair at how many hours you waste. So can I have the next slide, please? This is going to be part of the resource that I send out. I'm also going to do a session next week, which will be much briefer than today, I promise. It'll only be about 40 minutes, talking you through using the breakaway model that I just discussed, and linking it to the cognitive behaviour approaches. So that's just a follow-up session where we talk about the resources that are going to be sent out to you, and you can get a little sort of small group support on how we can help you to implement those. If you wanted to bring additional people in, just let me know, like drop me an email and I can send them the link for next week's meeting. In the chat box, you have a whole load of links that have gone in for the different resources that you can download, and for the course that you can sign up for. So I think we've got one more slide. So this is the link that will come out in the resource with all of the mental health support. It includes the NHS Urgent Help, which is a web page, and it has a link for you where you live. You can put your local details in. There's also the Mental Health First Aid England. They do have a whole load of resources on their website, which are really, really beneficial. As I said, I'm a mental health first aider. So if in doubt, you are welcome to contact me, whether it's about yourself or anybody else, and I can direct you to the kind of resources and the kind of support that you may need, or may need to help somebody else to access. I know waiting lists are really long, but there are things in between that are available to people. And for key workers, particularly in Milton Keynes and the local area, there's a really good charity called Arthur Ellis. And they're taking on young people now as well for mental health support, one-to-one online mental health support. And that's, like, they're a charity, but they have a corporate arm that raises money by working with corporations. And it's hard, it can be hard to find the right thing for you. So if you do need to get in touch, please feel free to do that. I'm more than happy to support you and direct you and get you the information that you or whoever it is you're supporting may need. That's kind of it from me. There's one more page, because I would like all of you, if you don't mind, to fill out a feedback for me. Can we drop the feedback, event feedback in the chat, please? It's really, really short. It's a brief message and a score of 1 to 10 on a landing page, but it just helps us keep building the opportunities that we're offering, because the mental health support that I offer is something that I want to be able to keep offering, basically. So a little bit of giving the free sessions and doing these kind of courses and offering the training and resources, if you guys can give us some feedback, would really be beneficial for us moving forward. anything else people want to add? Because I know, like, I skipped through the last little bit quite quickly. I'm just aware of how late it's getting, and I've kept you all. So I'd love to hear your interactions and your comments.
Hi, Sabrina.
Hi, Jess. Oh, hey.
Not a little question, but my takeaway from watching it was, what kind of scared me was the fact that they know your feelings and your thoughts. They know what move you're going to make next. So I brought like a privacy like webcam that covers up my webcam. I don't know if that's effective. I don't know how good that's going to be for them kind of analyzing me, and like they said, they can know the person you are, and I think that's quite scary. So I wanted to know, like, what was your thoughts on that?
I think, like they said in the show, algorithms are, they're created to do a job, and they're going to only ever get better at doing that job. So they can read into things that we don't even know we're doing, like when you hover over certain images or when you stop to look at something, and they gather all that information. And it's not necessarily about you as an individual, it's about how humans behave. None of us are, although all individuals, none of us are that unique. We all have similar behaviors, similar attitudes, similar whatever, enough so that they can categorize us. You know what I mean? By where you live, by your age bracket, by a whole heap of different criteria that they use to then pitch stuff to you. I have spent a lot of time with Post-it notes over my camera over the years when I'm not using it. Absolutely. I have disabled the mic and so on different devices that I've used over the years at specific times. We've had conversations about not taking the phones up into the bedroom, and they've got to stay downstairs. How much do they listen in? Way too much.
Yeah.
Can you get away with living in the world now without that stuff? I honestly don't know. I mean, we were talking about getting Alexa and stuff, and I was like, nope.
That's the worst.
Not because we wanted it, but just like, imagine having it and it just talking to you. My mum's telly came on the other day, earlier today actually, just by accident. Like the batteries in the remote were going or whatever, and the telly just started talking to us. It freaked me out. There's no way I could live with Alexa in my house.
Well, there's
like, I'd be having a meltdown.
There was that joke that was going round, wasn't there, about I laughed, my wife laughed, Alexa laughed.
Yeah, for real.
I know that with our work laptops, our cameras are disabled as a matter of course.
Okay.
So, yeah, let's just say mum works in public sector. But yeah, we have, I think that you have to be really sensible and be aware without people scaremongering. And it's difficult to get the balance right. It really is.
Oh, and the other thing was, Brie, I think it was Steve Jobs or one of the other CEOs of a tech firm. He was on an interview, and in the background I noticed his laptop had tape over the camera. So
yeah.
If you look up pictures of Zuckerberg, you'll see the same thing, and it's not just his laptop. He'll expect them on other devices around him where he is.
Yeah. I mean, I used to have it on mine all the time, but now I spend so much time on Zoom, it just, it doesn't seem practical to try and cover it up.
So it was just worth noting, it's one of those things.
Yeah, and I think, to be honest, the human behaviour is quite, what's the word? Like, it sounds really rude, predictable. As somebody who's worked in like behaviour management for quite a long time, you can kind of predict human behaviour just by knowing people a little bit. It's not to say everything they do, but within reason. So these algorithms, they're not good or bad, they're just program. But program that's taught to learn will only keep learning. Like, it's not going to get worse at what it does, it's only going to get better. And that's one of the messages in I mean, I'm a big sci-fi fan. Terminator. Like, they didn't build Skynet to try and ruin the world, but that's what happened. So I think with that in mind, when you realise, how would you switch that off? How do you turn that around? How do we like change the situation how it is now? And each individually, we can choose how much we interact. That's the first thing. And avoid interacting in ways like I would never purchase anything via Facebook. I really, really just would avoid having my bank details in there, those kind of things. With regards to our mental health, yeah, break free, set yourself some boundaries and really try to stick to them. It's not easy. I've turned all the notifications off, so none of my social media pings at me anymore. Even when I open my screen, it doesn't have the number of notifications for each app. I don't have that. I've turned all of that off so that I don't have that sort of, oh, I just need to check this. I just need to, or it's all off. So I choose when I interact with it, not because it's telling me, oh, someone's done this, no. The only thing I have notifying me is phone, text, and WhatsApp. That's it. Even my email doesn't notify me. So I'm not being rude when I don't respond to you, guys, because I don't have notifications on. Yeah, that's choices I've made in the last 9 to 10 months. So before the show,
same, Brina. I've done the same.
Yeah, man.
Text. I don't have time for it. Yeah. It's a full-time job.
Yeah, no, exactly. Especially with the business part of it. So, like my phone usage is probably not any less, but I literally have no notifications. Nothing pops up. Just my phone and my text and my WhatsApp. And no one texts me except Mum anyway. So it's just
I generally don't join WhatsApp groups or even Messenger. There's like 2 groups on Messenger, but I'm on a group one because I got fed up with, for want of a better description, being left behind. Like you'd ask someone, they'd be like, "Oh yeah, it's in the group chat," and I'm like, "There's 500 messages I haven't."
Yeah, exactly.
You know, the group chat was about, I don't know, a lad's weekend away, and several of the people in the group have spent the last 2 days talking about their lunch, and I'm like, I'm not reading that. I'm going to ignore that.
I haven't got time for that.
And I'm not scrolling back through it either.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of that, and I mean, that's the thing, is about the level of commitment that it demands from you. That's the bit that I can't deal with. So that's why I've kind of switched all of that off. I know a lot of you guys are dropping off now. I really would love if you could do the feedback for me. It would mean so much. If you haven't already, I will be sending emails out to everyone with the recording on, so you can have a replay and just make sure that you gleaned as much useful information as possible from the session today. And then for those of you who are interested in doing the resource session next week, and just going back through the breakaway techniques and some of the cognitive behavior stuff that would hopefully help you manage your social media and maybe help people around you, like so you can pass that on and share it with people around you as well to help them manage their social media usage. That would be awesome. I'm just looking at a list of people who are here, people I haven't said hello to particularly. So Brian, I have noticed you commenting in the chat and that. Thank you very much for joining us. Jason, all the way from Ireland. Hey Teapot, good to see you. Happy birthday to Ollington. I'm glad you got to come in and have a 2 chats with me today. You've been very blessed. And my good friend Victoria. I think everyone else I've already spoken to who hasn't dropped off yet. So yeah, hello, thank you. And if you have anything else you want to desperately share, feel free to jump in now.
Just quickly, Bree, being a big mouth and all that, something that might be worth looking at if you're looking at it from the social media aspect, is the online community in gaming. Because I think it's something that gets completely overlooked, but it's something that's very much not policed, where, again, from my perspective as a parent, there's quite a big concern in the age range, because how many kids are playing things like GTA Online, which is supposed to be over 18s, they're not over 18, and then you've got men like me playing it at 38 years old, and there's points where I will turn it off because I'll see a conversation starting between essentially a child and an adult, and you can tell by the way they're typing. But it's like, I just don't want to get into that, because it just becomes ridiculous where they become abusive to each other, and then when you've got headsets on and stuff, it gets really over the top. But I think it's something that gets completely overlooked.
I'm really disappointed. I invited a couple of gamers that I know in the session today, and neither of them attended. So yeah, I was quite disappointed by that. Hey, Vicky.
Hi. You know, this is a topic that is so close to my heart at the moment. Online gaming with kids. Karis is 9 and absolutely addicted to Roblox. I've had up-to conversations with her, you know, trying to discourage her from going on there, and it's constant. And I actually joined Roblox for my phone the other day because I wanted to see what she was doing. Because recently my nephew's had a really, really bad experience where the police have been involved, and he's actually been online groomed on, I think it was not Roblox, the other one that Fortnite.
Yeah.
So he's been groomed, and actually it's come out that he's been happening for months, and some of the stuff that he's been going through is like, it's unreal, absolutely unreal. Like he's been self-harming and everything, and his mum just didn't know because she thought he was playing a game. So I joined Roblox the other day, and I was like, look, what are you playing? Who are you talking to? What are you doing? She's like, and some of the costumes on there, you're like, these are stockings. She's like, yeah, this is the new one released. I really want to get it. I'm like, they're fishnets. Like, what are you doing? There's like a Halloween costume come out, and it's like boob tube and fishnets and stuff. I'm like, who are you playing with? And they run around these games, and you're like, no, this is not cool. And there's all these different platforms, and I kept asking my elder daughter, like, what's going on? Like, what are you playing? She's like, nothing. So when I asked my younger daughter, which obviously I've been asking the wrong kid, she was like, oh yeah, mum, they do pole dancing. I'm like, you know about pole dancing? You're 7. What do you mean? She goes, oh yeah, they go to parties and they dance around poles. And then there's oders there. What are oders? Oh, oders are online daters. What are online daters? What do you mean? They're like, oh yeah, you know, they're just guys that go around and get you, and you have to go with them. And you're like, okay, it's time to come off of this. Like,
yeah,
there's a world out there that you wouldn't believe. And kids are fixated by it, and they've got their friends in there, and they're playing these games, and it's scary.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so glad that Aaliyah's of age now that I don't have to worry, because she's kind of grown. Like, I'm so glad. I don't know what the answer is. Like, honestly, I don't. I think it's terrifying. And yeah, I think for us, the biggest thing is like parents like, stranger danger. Don't talk to people when you're out with your friends playing in the street. Like, don't talk to that strange man. If only it was that easy now. Do you know what I mean? That would be ideal, but it's not. And it's hard to even give them information about what they should be avoiding, because we don't know what that looks like anymore.
Didn't have a clue. Still don't have a clue. Like,
We've
a couple
actually,
of hours I spent on there, I wouldn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
What we've done with ours, from my 11-year-old down, is anything that's classed as mass multiplayer online, so MMOs, they're banned from, because there's always a chat option, there's always a social option. So if it's mass multiplayer online, no, instant block. They're not allowed to play it. And the problem is, there's a lot of platforms that allow it for free. I think it's called Warframe on the Switch is one of them. And again, it's like Roblox, Fortnite, Minecraft. These games are focused and designed for kids. Like, you play a game like Grand Theft Auto, you expect it to have an adult content because the main game has an adult content. Whereas Minecraft, Roblox, even Fortnite and so on, they look like kids' games, they look like cartoons almost, and yet the issues that are coming out of these games are ridiculous. My 11-year-old was actually banned from Fortnite before he'd even got it from his mum, because 2 of the kids at school had decided that they were going to coerce 2 other children to help them play Fortnite at school, and held 3 other kids down and beat the life out of them. Said they were playing Fortnite. That was their excuse.
Wow.
Yeah, I think that's the problem, because they do have a social peer pressure to be actually doing it. So when you do tell your kids that, no, you can't play these games, they go to school and they get bullied for it because they're not playing these
They've
games.
got no idea what it is, yeah.
Yeah, they don't know how harmful it is. So they're like, well, why aren't you playing it? Ah, ha, ha, your mum don't let you play it. Oh, why aren't you? Oh, are you a baby? So then they get the other side, they get the peer pressure side, where they're like, well, why can't I play it? Because they don't understand why. And then, you know, they have got their classmates on there and they want to interact. And it's like, you know, we can pick up our phone and talk to our friends when we want to, but kids can't necessarily do that. They don't all have a phone number. They may be playing it on different devices. So they find that that's their way to communicate outside of school. And it's like, there's a part of me that don't want them to stop that. But then there's like this minefield out there, and it's scary.
There is CEOP. I don't know if you know about that, Victoria, but there is CEOP where you can download resources to raise awareness with young people and at young age as well about the pitfalls of social media and online gaming and that kind of stuff. And it has videos which it creates thought processes for the young person, so they're able to make like more informed choices. And it also gives you the skills to know that when you see something that makes you feel uncomfortable or you hear something, you can press a button and you can get support, or you can report stuff. So that's a useful resource. Yeah.
I'll have a look at that. CEOP.
You've got the link.
I'll find it and post it.
You've got Vic's contact, so
yeah,
send that through. Hey Jason, I can see you now. You've come up to the top of my feed. Hey. So I think that's kind of where we're going to draw a line, people. If you do have other comments or other feedback you want to give or questions, get back at me. I'll be putting out the invite for next week's session by email as well. So I'm just really grateful for all of you for your time, and for Damien for his tech support. I couldn't have done it without him, as per. But I really enjoyed it. I think we should do this on a regs.